Hi, it's Kathleen from Bailey Academy, mom of 5, homeschooling 3 of them, ages 10, 12, and 16. Sometimes I forget what ages they are because they keep growing so fast. So today's video is about over and underachievers. Do you have an over or underachiever in your homeschool? And if so, do you know do you want some tips on how to deal with them? I just want to say first that I have both in my homeschool, and that I'm not saying that I've used these tips and now they're never over and underachieving ever, but it helps, and that's all I'm trying to say. If you have additional tips at the end that you want to say, or anything they want to say about the topic, please add them into the comments. I would love to see them. And yeah, I think that's what I want to start with. So, first of all, what is an over and underachiever? I think most people know what an underachiever is, but they might think like overachieving. Well, sure, some people do that, but is that really a bad thing? It's not bad, it just can cause problems. So first of all, I want to go over what an overachiever and an underachiever means, just in case you're not sure or on the same page as me. Sorry, I'm just looking down as I'm looking at my notes. So signs that you have an overachiever, or are an overachiever if it's you. Skips breakfasts and meals while working on tasks. So if they're working on their work or their project, it's normal to sometimes skip a meal when you're trying to, especially if you have a deadline. But if they're constantly skipping meals and snacks, not drinking water or sleeping enough, then they're not taking care of themselves. That's a common feature of an overachiever. They have very high self-expectations. So they expect more of themselves than you even expect of them. You're okay with if they end up with a B or with a B level, if you don't grade approach to the task. They're like, if it's not A+, it's not going to work. They're hard on themselves. So when they don't get that A+, they are distraught. They're upset. They think that they failed and it's horrible and they're stupid. Not just like, oh, I didn't do so well, I will try to do my best later. That's a more healthy approach, but they are like really hard on themselves. Oftentimes when it's not even really that bad, but and it can be something too, like not just their grades, but like if they got a wrong answer on a question you asked and they said it wrong and they feel embarrassed. And, normal to feel embarrassed, but this is homeschool. It's not up in front of the classroom with people you barely know. In your home, they shouldn't feel as upset if they get a wrong answer. They should feel welcome in your homeschool to be themselves. And so if they're not, then they're probably an overachiever. Eager to please. So they're the ones that are, raring to please you, whether it's a high grade again or, oh, I know the right answer. Oh, I know that one too. Oh, me. That's possibly could be an overachiever. Or they just, young kids, that's normal. But if they're constantly doing that, then that might be the overachiever. The shoulds. Okay, everybody knows what the shoulds are, right? I should have done this, and I should have done that, and I shouldn't have done that, and I should always do this or should never do that. The shoulds and those words always and never, if you hear your child saying that or you yourself say that, could be a sign that you're an overachiever. Feelings of guilt for taking breaks or free time. So it is natural to want to take breaks or to have to take breaks or free time from your schoolwork, homework, projects, work, for that matter, if you're an adult. And that is natural, and it is also healthy. If they are feeling guilty because they wanted to take a break, or they needed to, sleep or eat, like I said, or, they spent some time, a little more extra time on free time than they were meaning to, that is a sign of an overachiever. They're feeling guilty all the time. And scared of failure. Everybody doesn't like, or I should say nobody likes failure. Everybody likes success. But if they are afraid of failure to the point where if they just do like slightly lower grade or slightly less good than they normally do on something, that's it, black and white thinking. They go right to I failed, because they're so afraid that that's going to turn into a spiral, which is going to make them fail. So those are the signs of an overachiever. Are you an overachiever? Do you have an overachiever in your household? I used to be an overachiever. I think I'm pretty average now. I've mellowed out. But yes, in high school, I was an overachiever. If it wasn't A+, it wasn't good enough. It was fine if my friend got a B or a C. They tried their best. But if I tried my best and I only got a B or an A, it wasn't good enough. Which I know makes no sense. I understand that it makes no sense, but that's how I always was. And now I realize that, as long as you're trying your best and improving overall, it's okay if it's not exactly an A+. Not everybody can get an A+ all the time. And some people don't ever get an A+, and that is okay too, as long as they're improving over time. Now, what about an underachiever? Do you have an underachiever in your family? Or are you an underachiever? These are not symptoms, I was going to say symptoms. These are the signs of an underachiever. Perfectionism. Now, just because someone's a perfectionist doesn't mean they're an underachiever, but because you might think perfectionism might be for overachievers, and it can be as well. That one can be both. Perfectionism in an overachiever, though, is about making sure their project is perfect because they want the highest grade. An underachiever perfectionism is sometimes where they get so perfect that they end up giving up because they can't get it the way they want to be, and they just, I just won't do it because I can't get it the way I want it to be. Forget it, I can't be perfect, I don't care anymore. So if they're giving up because they can't get perfect, that's more of an underachiever. If they're spending time making it as perfect as they can, that's an overachiever. More signs of an underachiever would be being disorganized. Again, some of these symptoms or signs are not just for underachievers. Many people are disorganized. But if they're disorganized, a lot of time it can also be because they just don't care to be organized. That's the case of one of my children. They give up easily. Again, can't be perfect, can't be the way they want it. It's too hard. They just give up easily. Underachiever. Unrealistic goals. So I've taught my kids about goals and setting good goals, but that doesn't mean that they or I always do it right. And so if their goals, either they don't even make goals, or if they do make goals, they're unrealistic, then that could be a sign of an underachiever. I'm going to get an A+ on this, and then like I said, they don't get you're not even trying, they give up because they're not even getting close to that, I think. Or it could be like, I'm going to, and I can't think of examples, but unrealistic goals. They're way too much, too soon, that sort of thing. A disinterest in grades. So again, whether you do grades or not, if you don't do grades, it's still like, oh, okay, you did well on this or whatever. You still, this is the part I like about your story, that sort of thing. And so if they have a disinterest in grades or doing well, then that's an underachiever. That means that they really just don't care about how well they do in school a lot of time. And that's hard because you want them to want to do well, and you can't force somebody to want to do well. So I'm still working on how exactly to give them the kick in the butt they need without just making them give up completely. The last one I wanted to mention was low self-esteem. Again, happens a lot. But all those combined mean more likely to be an underachiever. Now, what happens if you have an over or underachiever in your household? Is there anything you can do to encourage them or yourself to kind of be more in the middle? You don't want an underachiever because they aren't trying hard to, do their best and to progress. But you don't want an overachiever. A little bit of an overachiever is okay, but an overachieving too much can cause symptom, which I'm going to, I thought I had written down, but didn't mention. Thought I wrote that down. Whatever. I don't know where I wrote it down, but basically, overachieving and underachieving can both, but especially overachieving, can cause mental health issues. Whether it's guilt or sadness or like actual depression, anxiety. They're anxious about getting it perfect. They're depressed when they don't get perfect or as good as they think they should get. And they get stressed just from the overachieving itself. Like they're working so hard, not taking breaks, not eating properly, not sleeping properly, that they can actually have problems in that way. So if you have an overachiever, this is what I've been trying to do. I need to reinforce to my child that if you get it wrong, it's okay. And I've mentioned to this particular child before that nothing bad is going to happen if you get it wrong. I just want to know what you think the answer is. And if I see that you're getting it wrong lots of times, then I know that maybe we need some extra help until you get it better. And that's what asking questions in a homeschool is for, or in a school, or anywhere. You're asking, let's just an example, it doesn't have to always be math, but if I ask you what 2 + 2 is, and you sometimes say 4, but you mostly, a lot of times say other things, then I just know you need more work on what 2 + 2 is. That's all it means. It's not the end of the world if I ask you a science question and you don't know the answer, especially when you ask a question you haven't taught yet. Sometimes teachers do that, like, oh, does anybody know what blah, 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 blah is? You haven't actually taught it yet. You're just trying to see, they're gauging what they know. You explain that too. I'm just going to ask some questions. We haven't taught it. It's okay if you don't know it. I just want to gauge or find out what sorts of things you guys know about the subject already. Just kind of give that explanation before you ask the questions is a good way to help them feel more at ease with answering. So if you preface this is not a test, just want to see where you guys are at. Even if it is a test, you can let them know what the point of the test is. So like in school, sometimes tests are the end of a unit because they want to, give you your final grade. So if the test is to give them a grade, let them know that. Let them know if it's their final grade or it's just part of their grade. Kitty cat's moving the camera. Or what the point is, and if you're doing, what's it called? Like government, provincial testing or statewide testing, whatever it's called in your area, then like the SATs but for the younger kids, those sorts of things, then let them know what the point of it is. Because when I was a lot of times when my kids were in school before we homeschooled, they were doing, I can't remember what it's called, but it's called different things in different places, so it doesn't really matter. They were doing a test, and the point of the test was to see what how the schools were doing in math and language arts. It had nothing to do with, they gave us results, but it was not about what my child was in. It didn't affect their grade in any way. And so they made sure to let them know that this doesn't affect your grade. This is just to see how well the schools are doing with teaching, to see if a lot of kids have low grades in math, then that school needs to work on teaching the teachers how to teach math more or get more help to help bring them up, that sort of thing. So letting your kids know what the point of the testing is good. And if you're not testing, you're just asking simple questions, then letting them know that if they get it wrong, it's okay, nothing bad will happen, and that it's, what the purpose of it is for. Whew, I'm out of breath. I often had to say, I'm not timing you or comparing you to your sibling. So if I ask a question and be like, okay, let's look together at your math. What is 4/5 plus 2/3? And they're, taking some time to work out the answer in their head or on the paper. Oftentimes this child would look at me and I, could tell that the child was nervous about taking too long. And so I had to say, I'm not timing you. I'm just waiting patiently. Take as long as you need to figure it out. And if you're taking an extra long time and sometimes I might ask oh, do you need some help? And if you do, tell me. And if you don't tell me, that's okay. And I'm not comparing you to your siblings or how quickly your sibling at that age did it or anything like that. And of course, don't do that. Don't strive for perfection. Remind your child that there's no such thing as perfection. That saying, practice makes perfect, we try not to use it in our household. We say practice makes better. I know it doesn't sound as cool, but honestly, you're never going to be perfect at anything. That's the whole point of what perfect means. There is nobody who's perfect. I know that those of you who are religious may say God is perfect, but there's no human who is perfect. And if you don't believe in God, then there is nobody who is perfect. Whatever way you want to word it to your child or to your family, that's up to you. But I just wanted to say you're not going to be perfect no matter how hard you work at that. So I'm not saying don't strive for improvement. Strive for improvement, but don't strive for perfection. Get your ear out of the way, kitty. For projects, if they procrastinate a lot, this child that is an overachiever procrastinates on the projects and needs, I found that the best way to do that is to give due dates throughout the process. So for your child, okay, let's say your child Amy is going to do a project. If you say, Amy, everything is due in 2 weeks, your child may procrastinate if they're an overachiever, because perhaps with Amy, the problem is that she is so overwhelmed with what she needs to do, and that she's taking forever to think about what she wants to do and decide, say, who she wants to do her project on, or whatever, or how she wants it laid out, because she wants it to be perfect. She wants it to be as good as possible, and she gets stuck, and so she's not able to move ahead with the project. So for Amy, what you would do is say, picking your person you're going to write about is due in 2 days. You need to have an outline, assuming your child has learned what an outline is, in the 3 days after that. You need to have essay written or whatever they're doing by this day. You need to have the rewrite by this day. I'll correct it by this day. Give them actual deadlines for every step of the way. And I found that makes it so much better, and this child gets the work done properly and on time. Overachieving, there's the spot I couldn't find. Overachieving causes stress and burnout, so take care of the mental health of the child. So whether, it's up to you to figure out what the child needs, if they just need some support, if they need actual mental health treatment or care, but just make sure that the child knows that when they trying really hard is great, but when they kind of go over and above all the time, they may cause burnout, and they may need extra sleep, healthy, nutritious food, exercise, water, those sorts of things, and make sure that they get those things because they may not figure it out themselves. Okay, that was a lot to take in. Now, if you have an underachiever, these are the tips that I've come up with for helping them along. Again, doesn't mean that my underachiever is suddenly not underachiever, but the child in question is getting better. So, encouragement. Okay, obviously every child needs encouragement, but the underachiever needs more encouragement. That means that you point out, instead of like, when you're talking to the child, use encouraging things more so than, not discouraging, discouraging things. So instead of, why do you, especially always and never things, watch out for that. Why do you never have your paper neat when you hand it to me? That can be easy to say because you're sick of the child not taking care with their writing. But that's not helping any. So when it is written a little bit neater, a quick point out, not too overemphasis or they get shy, but like, oh, that's really neat, I like how you printed that word, is better than all the times that you say, oh, I can't even read this, right? So encouragement, find ways to, you can look up some books and resources on that too, but ways to encourage your child who is an underachiever. Just my basic simple advice is just to go for the positives over the negatives, if possible. But like I said, you don't want to point out too much, because I find that my child who is an underachiever doesn't smile very often. And so the few times that the child has smiled, sometimes a sibling will be like, oh, look, he likes it, oh, he's smiling. And you know what? That just turned that smile into a frown right away. So oftentimes the underachiever doesn't want to be pointed out when they are not underachieving. So you want to point out small things to that child, not necessarily in front of everybody else, and not overdo it so that they then were like, well, I don't like this attention, so I'm going to just go back to my other way. Or they don't necessarily think that, but they do that. Learn their way and learn their interests as much as possible. So what I mean by that is, well, first of all, learn their way. So if figure out your child. Okay, so I'm going to use another example. So let's do a boy this time. So let's say Jake. All right, so Jake is your child, and everybody knows who homeschooling, if you're not brand new, probably knows about learning styles. So figure out what your child's learning style is. I'm sure there's videos and websites everywhere that can teach you how to do that. And learn more their way. So if Jake is better at visual, like watching videos or listening to somebody, visuals or like reading, but with like, what do you call it? Like visuals that they can see, like, I can't think of the word. Anyways, or maybe another child is better at hearing, or another child is better at kinesthetic, like doing things on their own. Figure out what the style is for Jake and try to teach or find curriculum for the child in that way. So if he's visual, then he might be better with watching a video lesson on his math as opposed to listening to some math, or you're just giving a worksheet and expecting him to complete it. That may or may not be better. You have to figure that out. Not just learning style, but actually which works better for your specific child. So sometimes they're better at one way or another. So for example, one of my children tried virtual math lessons. That did not work. But another child may have been good at it. So that's why oftentimes parents will use different curriculums for different children, and that is perfectly understandable because different children learn in different ways, and what worked for one child is not going to work for the other. That's learn their way. Also learn their interests. You want to get them interested in school so that they will give more of a effort and achieve a little more. So yes, obviously they have to learn the things they don't like, but if you can add in what they do like or what they don't like with what they do like, it'd be better. For example, maybe they hate math, but they love Minecraft and coding. So you can't only do that kind of math, but you can add that in as, coding, maybe a whole month of coding. Or maybe your child loves Minecraft. There's Minecraft math workbooks that would make it easier for them. Or perhaps they love science. So, of course, science class lessons might work better for your child. But when you're doing math, do it with science things. So if they're doing like easy math where they're doing, word problems, find word problems about science questions. Or teach them how to figure out why math is necessary in a science field. So that they can figure out that even those things they hate doing in math, like long division, they can learn why they need to do it, because if they want a science job, they need to know that. And so learn their way, learn their interests, again, as much as possible. Don't point out the smiles when they do happen. I mentioned that. If they procrastinate, teach them that they waste time. They could be doing their own stuff. So if they are a procrastinator, you want them to understand that if they had just done the work quickly and efficiently, then they would be on their free time already, or on to the next task when your free time will be sooner. Or if they are not a procrastinator and they're just a quick, get it all done so I can move on with my day, then you need to have set parameters on, well, it needs to be legible. It needs to be, at least 3 paragraphs long, or whatever it is that you want the specific thing to be, so that you make sure the child's not just scratching the quickest answer to get on with the task. So underachievers can be both ways. They can be procrastinators, or they can be super speedy, get it done as quick as possible without putting effort into it type people. So, lost my cat. Okay. That, I think, is everything I wanted to say. So again, an overachiever or an underachiever, either one that you have, or perhaps you are, it is okay. It is fairly normal to have some people who are overachievers and underachievers. You want to make sure they don't feel bad, or that you don't feel bad about the way that you are. There's different people are different. It's okay. I just wanted to give some hints and tips so you know what you're working with, if your child is an over or underachiever, or you, and what you can try to do to, specifically for your child, to encourage them, the best way to encourage an over or underachiever. All right, I think that is all I wanted to say. If you have anything to add, tips or hints, or you just want to say like, oh yeah, that really was really helpful, which of course I hope you say, or if you didn't find me helpful, you can comment that too. And like and subscribe if you would like to, because there'll be more content coming soon, and I would love to hear from you. So have a great day. Bye.